Yo guys, Punkrat another video. Here we go fellas. It's been a couple weeks of Classic and MC has already been cleared a couple times by the no-lifers blasting through the content. You're probably still leveling though, and you might have a while to go, but regardless, it's still right around the corner. It's the next chapter in your Classic WoW storyline. Very soon heroes, the call to battle against the Fire Lord will come. Molten Core all in all is a pretty simple raid. But even with that being said, there's still a good amount of preparation required to ensure success in your siege of Ragnaros' lair. So let me help you. Let's go over exactly what you need to do to be prepared for the Molten Mountain you'll be thrusted into in a couple weeks here. Also, if you guys really want an in-depth boss guide for MC, leave a comment and let me know, or hit the like button. If I see mass interest on this topic, I'll put it at the top of my priority list and make it happen for you guys. So here we go, how to get prepared for Molten Core. Let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing that you need to do to get ready for Molten Core is, you probably already know, get attuned. In vanilla WoW, you can't just simply walk into a raid. There's usually a quest or a quest line that must be completed before you're granted access to the raid itself. Now the Molten Core attunement is pretty simple. It's not a long quest chain like the Onyxia one. The quest itself is called Attunement to the Core, which is picked up right outside of Blackrock Depths at the high elf named Lothos Riftwaker, who sits at the bottom of the magma pit within this little cubby. There's no prerequisite for this quest at all, apart from the required level, which is 55. So once you're level 55, it's time to get attuned to Molten Core, which is again another nice little aspect. You don't have to be level 60 to prep for 60 endgame content. You could do it during your leveling process. So for this quest, you simply need to do a lava run, or a basic nearly full clear BRD run. The lava run is really fast. You simply push past the arena, cross the bridge and get over to Lord Incendius' platform, then dive into the pit of lava like Golem jumping in after the ring at Mount Doom. Now once you jump into the pit, it's time to execute on the lava jumping strategy to cross over all the way to the Molten Core portal within BRD. I want to extend a thank you to Ztox, or I personally know him as Chromex, for providing me with the footage of his lava jump towards the MC portal within BRD. Ztox is actually the main tank of the guild A Bunch of Idiots, which is Soda Poppin's guild on Horde side. This dude's an absolute OG beast. I used to play with him back in TBC. He was on Medivh back in those days. He's a rank 1 gladiator, and he also hit rank 14 and was a main tank on Nostalrius as well. A huge shout out to Ztox boys. He's streaming on Twitch nowadays, so you should definitely check him out. Give him a follow. He's streaming all the time, and tell him Punkrat sent you. His stream is twitch.tv/ZtoxXD. So as you can see in this clip, he's jumping through the lava, and notice that he's barely taking any damage from the molten liquid. So as you jump through it, if you keep jumping and time your jumps right, you avoid the tick of fire damage from taking place on your character. This means you could jump almost the entire way through without taking any damage, and of course a fire protection potion could help as well for those that are mechanically challenged. Just pop the pot and then it'll absorb a lot of the damage and give you a little buffer to work with as you're jumping through. You also don't have to complete the entire lava jump in one shot. There's actually a little safe spot at a midway point that you can go to, recover, and then finish it off in the second portion. Also keep in mind that there's fire elementals that are sort of roaming around under the lava, so kill them first, pull them to a safe spot, kill them, and then run through. This is a very quick run, and boom, you're attuned. The alternative is doing basically the entire dungeon, working your way through the Grim Guzzler, past the Flamewalker boss, past the Dwarven Council, and then outside of that door, before the last two bosses, there's a little bridge that leads towards the MC portal. Now, right outside the MC portal, there's the quest item, and it kind of looks like a rock dildo, I guess, for lack of a better description. You click it, grab the core, and bring it back to Lothos, and you're attuned to Molten Core. Easy, like I said, very simple. Now closely tied into running BRD is of course your pre-raid gear. You need at least a base level of blues to be considered Molten Core ready. Again, the beauty when it comes to farming your pre-raid BIS gear is that you don't have to do it at level 60. You could start doing it on your way up in the early to late level 50s. For instance, Maradon can be cleared in the high level 40 range, and there's a couple of nice pre-raid items within there to collect. I wouldn't farm Maradon over and over again, but you might as well do it, and you might get lucky and have some items that are MC viable. So the moment you're ready for Maradon in early Blackrock Depths, you can start picking up pieces that will last you a long time. For instance, at level 50, you can start doing BRD arena farms or prison runs. You can pick up Banthok Sash, Shav's Gladiator's Chain, Bloodcaught Ring, and a couple others. These items are better than most MC alternatives. Even until Blackwing Lair, some of them are quite viable. So from level 50 to 60, you're farming BRD, LBRS, UBRS, Stratholme Live and Undead, and of course Scholomance. You need to analyze a pre-raid BIS list for your character, then specifically ping dungeons and even bosses to fill up your gear set. This is one of the most enjoyable parts of the game to me. Collecting a patchwork set of items and consciously building out your character is a huge part of character progression, I'd say, in MMORPGs. Now I'll once again link a pre-raid BIS spreadsheet in the description to give you guys an idea of what items to go after. Notice I just mentioned farming specific bosses also. This is something that you might want to consider. The most obvious example is in BRD arena runs. Essentially you can just go into Blackrock Depths, clear up to the arena, or you can cheese your way through the arena by getting past the spectators if you have the key to go through the door, finish the event, and then reset the dungeon, or do a couple extra bosses and then reset the dungeon. You're basically killing one or a couple bosses over and over again to force out the item that you desire. There's also quests that you can do within the dungeons themselves that will give you amazing pre-raid items. This is something that I've covered in the past, so I'll mention it really quick here, but in Western Plaguelands there's a quest called In Dreams that gives you a ridiculously good pre-raid item. Actually, it gives you a whole load of options, and they're all really, really good. There's the note that you get from LBRS that leads to trinkets, which are pretty much the best you can get till Blackwing Lair. There's the Kurdanos questline, which gives you a nice sword for tanking or using in your offhand, and there's also little random quests out in high-level zones too. I mean, check this one out. It's called the Taste of Flame. You get in the Burning Steps, and it leads to these shoulder pads, Wormhide Spolders, which are pretty much just as good as True Strike shoulders, just lacking in the 24 attack power. So 2% chance to hit, that's huge. Get these as a rogue, warrior, or hunter before you attain True Strike. Another addition on top of that could be to actually enchant your gear to the best of your abilities. If you're trying to fight for a raid spot, this is one of the best things that you could do to get a favorable look from a guild. Alright, so alongside your pre-raid BIS grind, you actually need to do something that's a little bit more grind heavy, or maybe equally as grind heavy, if you're one of those core raid members who's allowing your guild to push all the way to Ragnaros. So this isn't something that everyone in the guild has to do, but rather just a core of the guild membership is going to have to do this in order to clear through and actually get access to Major Domo and Ragnaros himself. So you've probably heard of it by now. It's actually called Dousing the Flames in Molten Core. Pretty much every single boss except for Major Domo and I think Lucifron have this little rune that's on fire in their boss room. This rune actually needs to be doused. The flame has to be put out to gain access to Ragnaros, otherwise you can't spawn him at all. In order to do this, you need to unlock what's called an Aqual Quintessence, which is only obtainable after you do a pretty long quest series and you gain rep with the Hydraxian Waterlords. You need to go all the way out to Ashara. You can start doing this in your early to mid 50 range as well. On this little island outside here, there's a water elemental just hanging out there, and his name is Duke Hydraxis. He starts off with 2 quests. So there's Stormers and Rumblers, and then there's Poisoned Water. Stormers and Rumblers, you just have to go out to Silithis in the northwest corner of the map, kill 15 Dust Stormers and 15 Dust Rumblers. And for Poisoned Water, you go out to Eastern Plaguelands, and there's just these water bodies out there with a bunch of little water elementals that roam around, and you just got to get a bunch of those discordant bracers. Now after you've completed that quest, you're going to UBRS. The first boss in UBRS is called Pyrogard Emberseer. He's the guy who drops True Strike shoulders. You down him, get the Eye of Emberseer, and then go back to Duke Hydraxis. Now the next quest, you have to go to Molten Core, and in Molten Core you have to kill 1 Molten Giant, 1 Fire Lord, 1 Ancient Corehound, and 1 Lava Surger. Then after that, you actually have to get honored with Hydraxian Waterlords. So you do this by either clearing Molten Core trash, or just killing high-level elementals in specific spots around the map. The most common of which is actually in that northwest corner in Silithis and getting the Rumblers and the Stormers. Now after you're honored with Hydraxian Waterlords, you now have to kill every single Flamewalker boss. So we got Shazra, Lucifron, Gehennis, and Sulfuron. Then, once you've completed this entire series, you get your Aqual Quintessence, and you're now able to douse the flames. But keep in mind that the Aqual Quintessence is actually a single-use douse, so you can only use it once, then it's gone and you'll have to go back to Ashara to pick up another one. And I didn't mention that, but picking up the Aqual Quintessence, you have to go to Ashara before Molten Core, hit up Duke Hydraxis, get your Aqual Quintessence, and then go to raid. And when you get revered with the Hydraxian Waterlords, then you get access to Eternal Quintessence, which actually persists in your bags. You can keep it forever, and it has a 1-hour cooldown. So I believe there's 7 runes within Molten Core. I don't think it's 8, I'm pretty sure it's 7. And every single rune has to be doused, so a bunch of people within the guild need to have the Aqual Quintessence in their bags. This is a bit of a pain in the first week of Molten Core, but as you start clearing it more and more, pretty much everyone gets exalted with Hydraxian Waterlords, and your entire guild will have these. So this is something that's maybe more important right now to be farming out, but in the future, it's not something you're really going to think about. The next part is of course consumables. With any raid in vanilla, you need to be prepared, stocked up with potions and buffs that will allow you and your guild to thrive. Now Molten Core isn't the biggest challenge, especially for senior guilds, but that doesn't mean that you can go in half naked with no consumables and get everything within one night or one attempt. If you're a new guild, there's going to be ups and downs, a decent amount of learning to do on the job. Flasks are pretty much out of the question at this point for most guilds. Not only are they straight up not needed, but very few people have the recipes to actually craft them, more than you'd expect considering that people have been exploiting layering within dungeons to farm these, but still not too many people have them, and the mats are ridiculously expensive, so don't worry about flask. But regular potions are definitely something that you can consider. Basic agility potions, mongoose elixirs, which are basically the strongest melee potions in the game. I'd even call it like a flask, like the melee flask. I mean, check this out, it has 25 agility and 2% chance to crit flat. This is basically the melee flask, except it's cheap as hell. The mats are Plague Bloom and Mountain Silver Sage, which is quite easy to get and you don't need much of each. Warlocks should get Shadow Power potions, mages can get Arcane potions, although I haven't seen any greater Arcane potions on the auction house weirdly enough. I'm not sure what's going on with that one. They might be available though. Food buffs are also something that you might want to consider, whether it's a stamina buff, a main stat buff, mana regen well fed, or a mana regen buff. It's a nice little addition. You might want to do a quest line to unlock roids or get some alternative. In Winter Spring you get the Winterfall Firewater, and I've also noticed that you can farm echoes and get access to Juju power, which is crazy because I thought that was going to come around phase 3 or phase 5 or something like that, but apparently I spoke to some guy and he was actually farming the Juju, so you can also get Juju power out there. Now let's cover world buffs really quick, because I don't really want to spend too much time on this, because honestly, as a new guild that's going into their first couple weeks of progress, you probably don't want to get world buffs. Your raid is most likely going to wipe at some point and everyone's just going to lose the buffs. It's not really worth the effort. Save that for speed clears or big progress nights when you're going to finish one boss that you've been working on and you're confident that you can one-shot it. But outside of that, the most important thing when it comes to progressing Molten Core guys are fire protection potions. You need to rally your guild's alchemists and herbalists to go out and farm these. It should be a guild-wide effort. People should be farming elemental fire, flame sacks, and all the other crafting mats that you need to make both greater fire protection potions and basic fire protection potions, or GFPPs and FPPs, prop pots. You want to farm these en masse, and I mean en masse, tons of them, to supply the whole raid. This will help so much on fights like Baron Geddon, Ragnaros, and Onyxia, to name a few. So within that spreadsheet that I linked for the pre-raid gear, there's also a tab covering most of the consumables available in the game. Go over the list, see what's affordable, see what you think is going to be useful for you, feasible to grind, and set yourself up or set your guild up for success. Okay, that's it for me on this one, boys. So Molten Core is simple. It's not a complex raid by any means in terms of mechanics. In fact, the raid itself was made last minute by Blizzard back in the day, rushed out for the player base to just have some endgame content for the people who are max level. Even though the raid content is straightforward, there's still a lot of work and preparation that needs to be done in order to enable success in the Fire Lord's lair. That's what Classic is all about. I keep hearing people talk about how boss mechanics aren't as intense as they are in retail, but that's really not the point of raiding in vanilla. Dodging boss mechanics doesn't get you invested in the game, but meeting challenges, organizing the guild ranks, grinding for potions as a whole guild, getting attunements, gearing everyone up, all of these factors in a guild environment, 40 people all working together towards the same goal, lifting each other up, is the essence of an MMO experience. That's why raiding in Classic is such a great time. It's not about the result, but rather the journey. Alright, so hopefully this video was useful for you friends. I wish you good luck in Molten Core and good luck on your journey to get there. May you be showered in Thunder Fury bindings. If you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, of course, if you want to be notified every single time I post a new video hot out of the render oven. You know the drill, soldiers. And with that, gents, thanks for watching and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.